In many ways, chums, you really do have to be a bit ruthless if you're Meghan Markle, don't you? Whether you like her or not, the reality is that she lives under constant media scrutiny. Every move she makes is watched, and I've often thought that people in that position actually thrive on it. They genuinely enjoy the attention. Because, as that famous Mae West line goes, it's better to be looked over than overlooked. And I honestly believe Meghan Markle lives by that idea. She doesn't seem to mind how negative the publicity is, as long as she's being talked about. As I've said before, when you speak to people who've worked inside the Markle household, they all describe the same strange divide. You never quite know which version of her you're going to get on any given day. And once that version appears, you'd better adapt quickly, whether it's the diva duchess in towering heels, or the softer, more agreeable, almost charming Meghan. As one person once told me, it was utterly exhausting. You never knew what might set her off. Something she'd seen online, a post she'd read, or a comment someone had made. And once it happened, that was it. I've seen this many times over the years while dealing with celebrities. Every interview, every sit-down, every podcast, once it's edited and played back, there's always an issue, always a complaint. They're never able to say, that was brilliant, best thing we've done, well done, we're heading in the right direction, let's move on. No. Never. And this really is the core of the problem when it comes to Meghan Markle. This particular situation is fascinating when you think about it, because from her perspective, it seems that His Majesty the King simply isn't doing enough. As always, let me explain. Good morning. Lovely to see you, chums. Thank you so much for joining me today, and a warm welcome to all our new subscribers. I hope you're doing well. By the way, speaking of Christmas, I was thinking about something the other day. Someone asked me a question, and I thought I'd share it with you. What was your favorite Christmas present when you were a child? You know the ones. The gifts that really stayed with you when you were young. For me, it was a record player. And we weren't particularly well off. Don't worry, I'm not trying to tug at heartstrings, but it's true. We didn't have much. It was a second-hand record player, the kind where you place the arm down yourself. Yeah, I know. Old school, right? And the arm had actually been sellotaped together because it was clearly broken and well used. What sticks in my mind is my father peeking around the bedroom door, watching my reaction. And I honestly didn't care. I was absolutely delighted. Playing records, watching them drop down, do you remember that? Just wonderful. I remember thinking, oh wow, this is fantastic. So, what was that present for you? Share it with the chums if you like, the one you never forgot. It might not have been the biggest or the most expensive, but it stayed with you because it meant something. You knew effort had gone into it. You felt they'd really tried, that they'd done something special just for you. It's always lovely to revisit warm memories like that. You might imagine His Majesty the King felt something similar. I do feel sorry for Charles at times. I really do. Because at this stage of his life, didn't he think things would finally be simpler? After all, he famously said, "Don't make my final years difficult, boys." Well, you couldn't make them much harder, could you? And that's really where the problem lies. This was meant to be the period when he slowed down, falling alongside Camilla, and finally enjoyed the reward of becoming monarch, something he had waited an extraordinarily long time for, much like Edward VIII. You would have thought, well, surely this part will be easy. There was a recent photograph, and this is where things got interesting, because it caught a lot of people by surprise. This is something the monarchy has always done. If you remember, the late Queen was particularly clever at placing photographs very deliberately. Do you remember the small table beside her during the Christmas broadcast? And how everyone zoomed in to see what was there? Well, apparently, that became another triggering moment for Markle and Prince Harry. Their photograph wasn't included. After everything that had been done that year, they weren't even mentioned or featured. Extraordinary, isn't it? What actually happened was that this photograph appeared at a Christmas event hosted by Queen Consort Camilla. It was placed on a table at Clarence House. And the image itself was, of course, Meghan and His Majesty the King walking down the aisle at St. George's Chapel on that very public day. Orchestrated reality. Didn't enjoy it. Wanted a private wedding. Yes. Yes, of course. Right. Once again, absolute nonsense from Markle. Now here's where it becomes truly interesting. A member of staff who, I should add, is about to be shown the door as more staff are quietly being let go, shared some remarkable insights. They don't care anymore, and frankly, the things they tell you are astonishing. I've been fortunate enough to build friendships with some of them. And they want their experiences out there. They want people to understand just how difficult it was to work in that environment. What was particularly interesting when this image surfaced and began circulating worldwide was how closely people examined it. Everyone zoomed in, because so many asked the same question. Is this a hidden signal? Is King Charles extending an olive branch? Honestly, how many olive branches is he supposed to offer? That was certainly the narrative. Here's the olive branch, and so on and so forth. But in reality, it wasn't anything so calculated. It was simply a case of him thinking, well, this is what I have around, and using it. And why wouldn't he? For him, it was likely a genuinely warm and emotional moment. He didn't see it as being used, wrung out like an old J-cloth, and then discarded. In his mind, he was supporting his youngest son. He felt pleased. He felt honored. But of course, Markle saw it very differently. Over in Montecito, this was reportedly viewed as trolling, as provocation, as triggering. Yes. And once again, this is where you realize that in the world of Markle and Harry, you simply can't win. No matter what you do, it's wrong. I'd say Harry may have viewed this as a possible opening, a sign that perhaps relations were beginning to thaw. After all, his visit in September, which didn't go particularly well, and I'll share more on that in the coming days, certainly didn't unfold as planned. What stood out during that episode was this. He managed to secure a meeting, but he didn't return with what Markle truly wanted. And in her mind, that meant only one thing. A major public apology delivered on the world stage. And according to that source, when Meghan Markle saw this picture, she didn't react with delight. She didn't think, well, finally, after everything we've put them through, everything I've said, everything I've done, maybe this is okay. No. Not even close. Apparently, in her eyes, His Majesty the King could still do more. If he truly wanted to make amends, why hasn't he publicly said something kind? Why hasn't he called out the President of the United States for mentioning he had 2 sons? Remember that? When he praised Prince William during a speech. Markle simply doesn't let up. And as for Harry, well, he's reportedly just like a deflated balloon. Whatever he suggests, he sits there thinking, this is gonna go well. The reality? We saw it clearly with that fake Super Bowl video. Harry no longer seems to care. The bottom line, and this is a direct message to you, sir, His Majesty the King. Unless you step onto a public stage and openly acknowledge exactly what went wrong, a photograph, no matter how beautifully framed, in one of the world's most famous houses, simply isn't enough for Markle. When will the message finally sink in? Neil Sean reporting from the very heart of London.